I'm Greg Gutfeld with Kimberly Guilfoyle, Juan Williams, Eric Bolling, and Lisa Booth, The Five. So in the first month of the Trump presidency, illegal border crossings have dropped 40% in a period where you usually see an uptick of 20%. That's about 31,000 to roughly 19,000 people. To paraphrase Joe Biden, this is a BFD, a big, fabulous deal. Seriously, we just slashed bad behavior nearly in half in a month. That's like Keith Olbermann losing 40% of his brain cells since Trump got elected, or Michael Moore losing a chin in 30 days, or Hillary losing Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania in one day. It's what you call an achievement, and one that would be big news if there weren't other big news shooting into space like a T-shirt cannon every 12 minutes. The fact is, if you want stricter border enforcement, just announcing that idea can do half the job. The blind eye, once turned, is now wide open, and it's staring right back at you. Now that illegals know the welcome mat is gone, why take the trek? Certain capture becomes, in a way, its own wall. So get this, it's now as hard to get into America as it is to get into Mexico. And think about who this really helps and hurts. It hurts the ruthless coyotes who victimize the people they transport here. And it helps the folks who are no longer abused and raped by these ghouls. Trump just made Mexico great again. It's a shame that such success is overshadowed by early morning tweets. But maybe it's a good thing. While the media gets bogged down in words, deeds quietly get done. Maybe that's been the strategy all along. That was interesting. Kimberly, happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah. All right.
Widely rumored to be my birthday.
It is. You never age, though.
Cannot confirm or deny. Right?
Exactly. You're like Dorian Gray. Somewhere in an attic, there is a painting of you, just getting old, but you stay young.
In your attic.
Yes. Well,
That's not creepy.
There's a lot of things in my attic, Kimberly, that belong to you. All right. You consider this an accomplishment?
The whole thing an accomplishment?
Yeah, well,
yes.
yeah, the 40% drop.
Absolutely, but guess what? Everybody else is burying the lead, right? Because they want to take cheap shots at President Trump. They want to do anything they can to dismantle and delay his forward progress and momentum that he's had. This is a key area. He was very strong on this in terms of his campaigning throughout the election, and now he is actually returning dividends to the American people and delivering on his promises. So this is great for the supporters. It's bad for the detractors, because this kind of facts and progress make them uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, Eric. It's almost because of the change in policy, right? That has caused this.
So he says he empowers his border agents to go after illegals and actually catch them instead of the old
catch and release
that Obama. And by the way, when Obama administration or a border agent under the Obama administration catch and release an illegal coming across, they counted that as a deportation.
Right.
So that's why you're seeing a lot of the numbers go down, because now border agents actually catch them and they don't release them. And guess what happens when there's a penalty to an activity, to doing something? That activity goes down. When you get caught, they realize we're not going to do this anymore. I'm thrilled that we're leading this show with this. I mean, I am just so happy that we're not like, every other show and every other network, even on this network, where we're just ad nauseum going at this Obamacare thing. We're going to get to it, but this is big news. This is, as you point out, the crime that they're committing, but also the real economic damage that they're doing to Americans who are trying to work, and the economic damage they're doing to the American taxpayer when we're providing benefits for illegals.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Lisa? Do you think this is temporary? Like they're kind of like waiting until everything cools down, or is this going to be a permanent change, you think?
No, I think it's going to be a permanent change. And in short, I would just say, duh. Like, what do you think happens when the President of the United States says, hey, we are actually going to follow the laws on the books, and the illegality at the border is going to stop? Of course that's going to be a deterrent. And what I found interesting also is, because if you look at the numbers, that October before the election, they saw, I think it was nearly 67,000 illegal immigrants that tried crossing the border, which is basically back to that 2014 when we saw that summer of the border surge from individuals coming from Central America. So I wonder why right before the election we saw this record high number of individuals or illegal immigrants trying to cross into the country.
Why, Juan?
Yeah, why, Juan? I was looking at you.
Hello, Juan.
Hello, Juan.
is this cause and effect? Is this strictly a correlation? It's coincidental that this is happening? Or is it cause and effect? What Trump is doing has caused this to happen. And how do you feel about that?
Well, I think it probably is cause and effect. I think the rhetoric is amped up, and it's anti-immigrant rhetoric.
Illegal immigrant.
No, I think overall anti-immigrant.
I'm very pro-immigrant, but anti-illegal immigrant.
I am too, but I think that the Trump rhetoric is anti-immigrant. And I think, well, let me just finish the thought.
He married an immigrant.
That's fine, but he's not talking about Mexicans. You know what I mean? Yeah.
But he had to marry a Mexican?
No, I'm saying the kind of, what you're seeing here is anti-immigrant rhetoric. And remember, most of the immigrants, both legal and illegal, are Mexican, right? So just think about that. But here's my point to your talking point, which is that, yes, I do believe that President Trump's rhetoric has had an effect, because I think people think, this is not welcoming. But I hear some bigger effects that are reflected in the fact that there's a net zero migration at the border now for some time. And the key reasons there are, one, the Great Recession that took place. Two, I think that there's
8 years ago.
Yes, and that's what it drove it down. We have seen since going back 50 years, this is just about the lowest point for people crossing that border legally or illegally, Eric. So what you got there? But I think you do have stricter enforcement and you have more deportation.
President Obama had record deportation.
I'm saying this.
Far more than Bush.
All of that contributed to what is the big picture here. So what Greg's talking about is for the last 2 months. I didn't say he was a bad guy.
Well, no, you said that his rhetoric is anti-immigrant.
I agree with that.
No, you said that. So you agree with
So
you agree with
That's what I
yourself,
said.
which is charming. Except his rhetoric isn't anti-immigrant. In fact, he has a wholehearted approach to welcome immigrants, but we should not, and we should not be allowing people who are criminal recidivists to re-enter this country in a revolving door over and over again.
I think the big news today was when Mitch McConnell said, the Senate Majority Leader said, when they asked him, who's going to build that wall? Who's going to pay for that wall?
Right.
Is Mexico going to pay for that wall? He said, no.
Why do you think Mitch McConnell has a say in who's going to pay for the wall?
Oh, you don't think that the Senate has anything to do with approving the money?
I think the House will approve it.
That doesn't matter.
I think the House will approve it.
If the Senate says no, if you have the Senate says no, Republican in Washington,
if the House approves and sends a spending bill to the Senate and says, we have this money for the wall. I mean, you think Mitch McConnell's not going to get 50 votes to say, let's pay for that wall?
He's not going to get it. That's what you. I mean, this is fantasy.
Good luck with re-election, then.
So President Trump has said a nation without a border is not a nation. Do you disagree with that? Do you not think that sovereign nations have a right to control their borders or control illegality at the border?
That's not the issue that's really on the table today. The issue really is the 11 or 12 million
on illegal immigrants coming into the United States.
That's
How do we not have the right to control that?
No. As Eric was saying, or was it Greg? We've had a record number of deportations under President Obama.
Low under President Trump just now.
It's interesting.
The lowest monthly total the last 5 years.
The reason why I said that one is you claimed that there was net zero migration because of the bad economy, and I said last year and the year before were record deportations under a president, any president. So what happened in the last month or so? They stopped emigrating?
They stopped immigrating?
Yeah, immigrating and emigrating. They stopped coming here.
What we're saying is that people are leaving. In other words, there are people who are leaving because of economics less.
In the last month.
No. Over this period. I mean, the one exception would be, I think it was 2014 when you saw this surge. I think Lisa mentioned when people were coming from Central America.
Yeah, which we saw the lead up of President Obama's executive action on immigration as well. It was the lead up to that November announcement when we saw this record high. I wonder why. Also after DACA as well, because when you basically send a message to illegal immigrants that if you come here, we're essentially going to turn our back on it. Of course, we're going to see.
I want to get to something else because I'm always interested in what Jorge Ramos.
I agree. Me too.
He and Tucker Carlson got together, and Tucker Carlson has a show on Fox News doing pretty good.
Yeah,
not a bad show at all.
Very
I suggest you watch it. Here is Jorge and Tucker talking about what we were talking about.
This is our country. It is yours. It is mine, and it is ours. The interesting thing is that with the Trump administration and many people who support Donald Trump, they think it is their country, that it is a white country, and they are absolutely wrong. This is not a white country. In 2044, this country, the white population will become a minority. It will be a minority-majority country. That's precisely what I'm saying. Latinos, Asians, African Americans, or whites. It is our country, Tucker.
But you know what he's doing, which is what kind of what I want to talk to you, Kimberly. Yeah, well, he's conflating concern over illegal immigration with bigotry. He's like, there is a difference between illegal immigration and legal immigration. He is actually being the bigot. He's conflating the two.
We've heard that somewhere.
Yes.
Table, I know, I was just pointing.
Okay, but it's really true. But see, he needs fuel for his fire. So he's going to go that way. He's going to conflate because it's the only way that he can try and move the ball forward for his side by then saying that everybody else is racist. This isn't your country. This isn't a white country. It's our country. We're going to take it over. He's saying Latinos, Hispanics, Asians, etc. How is that anything that's unifying and bringing? How is that respecting immigrants when people have come from all over the world to be here in the United States? That's what makes this country great. Not being divisive and saying, no, this is just a country of minorities, or no, this is just a country for white Americans. I mean, he's really doing his argument and his people a disservice.
So let me defend myself, and indirectly, let me defend Jorge Ramos.
Yes.
Which is to say, one, guess what? I think it's like 90+% of the illegal immigrants in the country have committed no crimes.
Okay.
And yet, how is this discussion often framed by the President of the United States, who brings victims of crimes perpetrated by illegal immigrants into the docks of the Congress? What?
That's a crime in itself, to come here illegally. That's why it's called illegal.
Let me just say,
it's against
the law. That is so old at this point. These people are here.
The law?
Most of them have been here for more than 10 years. They're not criminals, and that is a real discussion about immigration, legal and illegal in the United States.
Just let me clear something up that Jorge Ramos has done, and he's done this time and time again, and Bob Beckel has even done it on this show. When you say that whites will become a minority in 2044, that's a very, very loaded thing to say. Whites will become a minority in 2044 if you include Hispanics and Asians as, when you look at ethnicity, not race. If you go by race, that number is not even close. Right now, the African-American population is
13%.
13%. Latin American population is 17%. So in order for whites to become the minority in race, it'll happen, but it'll happen a lot further down the road.
And also, Jorge Ramos is bringing it up in a way to gin up fear.
Of course.
That's all he's doing. He's just saying, like, you guys, this is going to... It's like, I don't care. I honestly don't care what the country looks like.
I think he was using it defensively, Greg.
So what?
Greg, I think he was using it defensively. He's saying that he thinks Trump is stirring up white resentment against...
And what is he doing? Exactly. What a hypocrite. What is he doing? Honestly, he's a provocateur. That's what he is. And he doesn't equip himself with the facts. So enough of him.
All right.
Mic drop.
Ahead. Some big developments in our war against ISIS. The president has put more men on the ground, overseas on the front lines. Detail when the 5 returns.
Men?
Men.
Women wear boots too.
Just don't like boots in the night.
As promised, I directed the Department of Defense to develop a plan to demolish and destroy ISIS, a network of lawless savages. We will work with our allies, including our friends and allies in the Muslim world, to extinguish this vile enemy from our planet.
Love it, music to my ears. The commander-in-chief vows we're going to destroy ISIS, and he's taking action, deploying a couple hundred Marines to Syria to begin purging Islamic terrorists from the capital of Raqqa. Later this month, the Trump administration is expected to hold a summit of sorts with more than 60 countries to strategize on how to wipe ISIS off the map. This is music to my ears, Bowling.
Yeah.
Strong strategy. This is another campaign promise that he made, that he was going to wipe them off the map. Not degrade, not tickle, not whatever.
Tickle.
Well, this is how it was. I mean, they wouldn't even say the word, right? Radical Islamic terrorism. So here it is. Wipe them off the map.
Yeah, and he used radical Islamic terror, and he said he was going to do this in his joint session to Congress last week or a couple of days ago. The interesting thing is he's got 60 countries jumping on board, right? So it's kind of like NATO. Yeah, you want protection, you want to have these bilateral or trilateral, quadrilateral agreements. That's great, but you got to pay your fair share if you want the security. Hey, 60 nations, you want ISIS off the map, as we all do collectively? Well, you got to get involved too, and that's Donald Trump's skill and. Probably the reason why he was elected, because he has the art of the deal, right? He's going to make a deal with these people that collectively the global will be safer because of the elimination of ISIS, but everyone's going to have to pitch in.
All right, fantastic. So, Lisa, what do you think about this? Is another campaign promise? He's putting it forward and checking the box.
You know, I think what's important that President Trump has done that hasn't gotten a lot of credit for is simply asking for a comprehensive plan from his military leaders and from Secretary Mattis. And General Jack Keane has said this in criticism of President Obama, that President Obama never asked for a comprehensive plan. And also, mind you, asking for someone like Secretary Mattis, who served as the head of CENTCOM. So this is a guy who is intimately familiar with the Middle East, a lot of the problems that we face. And one of the big criticisms of President Trump was the fact that he wouldn't listen to his military leaders. But that's exactly what he's doing with this. So I think it's important to take note of that.
Okay, and Greg, he's also coalition building in terms of having other countries put skin and cash in the game.
And you know what we've seen for the past 8 years in this manner? It's always about climate change. It's always about the incremental increases in Celsius and getting all of the countries around the world to spend trillions and trillions of dollars to offset a tiny fraction of a change in temperature that may or may not happen based on the climate models. What he's dealing with is something called terror change, which is an exponential change in the risk due to a marriage of technology and toxic doctrine. So instead of having a climate summit, we're actually having a terror summit, which is incredibly important. And before anybody starts talking about, oh, you know, you're a chicken hawk for wanting boots on the ground, if you talk to any of the soldiers, whether they're Green Berets or they're SEALs, they're salivating at the opportunity of killing these people because it's a once-in-a-lifetime chance to truly fight and destroy evil. And they want to be on the ground. They want to do this. We are not imposing anything on the military to have them go and eviscerate evil. Having said that, there will be a risk that maybe somebody will get captured and that we have to see that on our TVs. And we have to be able to be strong enough to endure that and hope and pray that doesn't happen.
And respect their decision and
Right.
their choice to serve in a voluntary armed forces.
And they want to.
They want to. They're good at it. They want to do their job. The rules of engagement have been put back to what they were before because under the Obama administration, they were just strangling these troops and, in fact, making them less safe on the ground and in the theater. Juan, what do you think about this, a coalition with 60 countries coming together?
That's fine with me. I'm still waiting for the grand plan that Mr. Trump said he had to defeat ISIS. Where's the plan? I don't see it. So he goes to General Mattis, and General Mattis says, okay, we would like some more troops, and he's going to give him more troops. But guess what? I don't think the American people want more troops in the Middle East settling somebody else's
I think they want to fight ISIS.
Well, they're glad to fight ISIS if you tell them exactly, here's the end point. Here's how we're going to do it, and here's how we're going to count out victory.
Well, why
because
he's
right
already
now,
said he wasn't going to do that, Juan. He said from the beginning.
Yeah, but he doesn't have a plan.
Maybe why broadcast the plan?
Oh, why not have a plan to us as the American people? The reason he got in trouble. He says, no, what he says is we're going to put 1,000 more boots on the ground, right?
The plan was
1,000 more. Is that going to be it, Greg? Or is that the first?
I agree. I don't think it's enough.
Okay, there you go.
No, it's not there you go. He doesn't have to satisfy Juan Williams.
Not me.
He doesn't have to.
He better satisfy the American people and his people. When you start bringing back body bags, as what happened with that young man who was killed,
right.
And his father won't talk to you and says, why did you do this? Was this life worth the cost? And he says, no.
Do you not think it's a fantastic idea to get a 60-country coalition to fight ISIS together?
I said that's great.
No, but here's the point. President Obama said, you know what, rich people, you need to pay your fair share. President Trump says, the rest of the countries who are going to benefit from ISIS being eliminated from the planet, the terror being safer all around, you pay your fair share. I think this is great.
I think everybody has said this. You are preaching the obvious. Everybody says you need to defeat ISIS. Everybody says it should be a coalition. So go ahead and come on in. The problem is that a lot of these countries had not been contributing in the past. And even in terms of
So now he's complaining because they're going to.
Under President Obama,
what you see was the United States was pulling back in terms of saying, oh, it's our exclusive responsibility. President Trump is putting more Americans in danger, and he doesn't have a plan.
Well, he's President Obama who said himself he didn't have a plan.
All right. And President Trump is the one that's going to give them what they need to take it to ISIS. So just wait for that. It's coming. And Juan, maybe you'll finally agree. Ahead, a lot of Republicans are pushing for a complete repeal of Obamacare, but will it be possible to eliminate the entitlement state? Krauthammer says no. Next.
Krauthammer!
The GOP replacement for Obamacare cleared two key hurdles today. Both the House Ways and Means Committee and the House Energy and Commerce Committee approved the bill. Speaker Paul Ryan rolled up his sleeves earlier to explain how the new health care plan could be rolled out with a PowerPoint presentation for reporters. The president today said, despite what you hear in the press, health care is coming along great. We are talking to many groups, and it will end in a beautiful picture. Charles Krauthammer is skeptical of the legislation. He encourages Republicans to abandon the hope for a full repeal because of one key factor.
You cannot retract an entitlement once it's been granted. That's the genius of the left. There is no country in the West that has developed national health insurance and then revoked it, despite all the problems. Accept the fact that you're not going to get everything you want. Reagan said, I'd rather get 80% of what I want than go over a cliff with my flag flying. You don't want to go over a cliff. Get it while you can and worry about the rest later.
Greg, you said, I remember you saying, Krauthammer said
it's impossible.
Does he watch The Five?
Yeah, I think he does. But also, he probably said it 10 years ago. But it's hard to be reverse Santa Claus. The Dems are Santa Claus. We're reverse Santa Claus. By the way, I have to say this, I'm really tired of politicians saying rolling up your sleeves. You aren't rebuilding a carburetor. You're actually just taking notes and drinking Red Bull. So it's not that hard. By the way, but his point is well taken. You know what a government programs, it's like when somebody gets shot but lives and they go, we can't remove the bullet. So we're just going to leave the bullet in there because if we take the bullet out, it's going to be worse. That's what a government that's what Obamacare is. It's like
one of your better.
Sounds painful.
Yeah.
No, so you're at all.
It clears to committees, but Conservative caucus doesn't like it still.
Listen, it's going nowhere unless they get the Freedom Caucus on board and they say we're all in. So whatever you do, I'd wine and dine, movie night at the White House, whatever it takes.
Bowling.
Come on, bowling, whatever. It doesn't matter. What do you like to do? You want to play Pokemon on the front lawn? Whatever you want to do, come over and we'll do it. That's what you have to say, because literally he's going to have one by one to make sure to be able to get the support to get it for it. And I understand. Paul Ryan was saying today, listen, please, let's start with this. Otherwise, if we try and just bust this straight through with everything super packed and loaded to begin with, it's going to be like a choking filibuster. It's going to get killed, and we're not going to get anywhere. And this is our only chance to be able to repeal Obamacare. That's what he's saying.
What about a free market solution to this? What about the market-based solutions to this? Maybe you get the Freedom Caucus on board and get some movement.
I think that's what the Freedom Caucus says. They want a market solution, and what they see is that this is not a market solution, that this is just, in derogatory terms, and given who's talking, they call it Obamacare Light. And what they mean by that is in terms of the subsidies, now you're going to give the tax credits, and again, it's built in such a way that it has the same practical effect, and there's no limit potentially unless you start doing things like impacting Medicaid and Medicaid spending, and that's just not going to fly with a lot of Republican governors, not to mention Republican voters.
Lisa, I've been a pretty much vocal opponent of this health care plan since it came out. I'm getting calls by Republican congressmen at home on my cell phone saying, hey, don't you understand this? We need to do this in phases. And I keep saying this sounds so much like when Nancy Pelosi said, pass the bill, we'll find out what's in it later. They want us to pass this structure of the bill and trust them that they're going to finish what the phase 2 and phase 3 is supposed to roll out.
Well, it sounds like you might want to change your phone number as well.
No, I'm willing to talk. Call, but I'm not really mobile on it.
Okay, so I think one thing that's important to remember here is the fact that they have to use the reconciliation process. So there's limitations with what they can do legislatively with the reconciliation process. For instance, they can't do across state lines. They can't do things like tort reform. Further, look, this is also a numbers-driven game that leadership is looking at. Paul Ryan can only afford 21 defections in the House, which, to Kimberly's point, that's why the House Freedom Caucus, which I think is about 30 members, is important in the House. But then you go to the Senate, right? They can only afford 2 defections in the Senate because they have to have a simple majority with the reconciliation process. So the problem you encounter there is you don't just have to deal with the conservatives in the Senate. You also have moderates that have expressed concern as well. So if you go full throttle to what conservatives want, then you lose your moderates as well. So I think it's a very difficult balance that leadership is facing with trying to move this through, given the numbers that they have.
Hence the staging. That's the whole point of the staging.
There's a political way to get it done, though. There's a political way to get it done. You put all the stuff in there that you want in there, and you worry about the Senate, and you go like this. You know what, Democrats, if you don't like this, you don't vote for this, you're basically saying, all you're going to get is no Obamacare and no health care. Do you want it to look at the American people and say, if you don't go along with this, there could be 12 or 15 million people with no health care because you didn't sign on board?
I see. I thought President Trump promised there would be more people covered. Your premiums would go down.
Okay.
None of that is achieved by this bill.
Juan, I'm on board with that. I agree with you 100%. But this isn't Trump, though. This isn't Trump's plan. This is House Speaker Ryan's plan.
Excuse me. Trump has bought into this plan and says that he is not going to push it. He's going to go out on the campaign trail and campaign against
What's the book he wrote?
Art of the Deal.
Art of the Deal, Mr. Trump. It's time to start making some deals and get the thing pushed through. I guess with some good stuff.
Aren't you embarrassed?
With some freedom-based market solutions.
I think you're embarrassed.
Also, I like.
No, I want it to work.
Look what I
a
did
pretty
for
picture
Juan.
on Juan, and President Trump said it would be a beautiful picture as well.
I think it's just as pretty as the birthday girl. Look at that.
Pretty flower.
It's a beautiful flower.
Okay, they want us to get to...
Kimberly said that she was oddly attracted to me in the break.
I heard that. I heard that.
You did say that, Kimberly. I just want you to know that. And I want America to know that.
No, because I said you were being sweet. Like, don't go overboard with it. Don't like take it to the bank.
Someone leaked our intelligence secrets to WikiLeaks again, and the manhunt is on. What should happen to them when they're caught? We debate that next. Check out the zipper.
A massive FBI manhunt underway to catch the leaker or leakers accused of hacking the CIA. WikiLeaks published the leaks for the world to see. When they find out who's responsible, should they be prosecuted? Bill O'Reilly thinks it's treason.
Talking Points believes that leakers of classified documents are actively committing treason. And it's apparent that the federal government does not have a handle on how to apprehend these traitors, much less stop the espionage. Obviously, a dangerous situation. President Trump should order the FBI to aggressively investigate all leaks and hacks, assigning that a top priority.
You know, I agree with O'Reilly on this one, Greg. What do you think?
I do, too. I don't think there's anything heroic or about putting lives in danger and aiding and abetting the enemy. When terrorists change their tactics based on leaks, you should die.
Yeah, but I think the big point here, and I think this often gets obscured, is that when there was the NSA stuff, the NSA was found to have been looking at Americans here at home.
Oh,
the CIA's business is, that's illegal.
Right.
But I'm saying the CIA in this hack, they're looking at people overseas and they're trying to protect the U.S.
I know, but that you didn't. When Snowden leaked, what was it, 1.5 million documents? Nearly all were foreign intel. He didn't even know the other stuff, the domestic stuff. He wasn't even involved in that stuff, but he pretended it was about domestic surveillance, but he screwed us over. He should be executed too.
So, Lisa, part of the argument here is...
I said that for you, Eric.
Are the Russians behind this, do you think?
I don't know if they're behind it, potentially. I mean, look, it wouldn't be the first time that Russia has tried to hack the United States, right?
No, no.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, they hacked into the Joint Chief of Staff email as well. I mean, so this isn't the first time if Russia was behind it. But I do think it's highly concerning. You know, former CIA Director Michael Hayden pointed out the fact that this exposes personnel information, operational things exposed, or tactics, procedures, things that are used in foreign intelligence and trying to protect the United States. So it should be highly concerning to every American that this information is out there.
So now the question is, WikiLeaks is saying, oh, we'll talk to Apple and Google and everybody else there, and we'll give them the opportunity to fix. I'm thinking to myself, these people are ridiculous. Nobody should do business with these folks.
You know, I don't think that would be wise for Apple or Google or Intel or any of the companies to deal with WikiLeaks. I will agree with Greg and O'Reilly on it's treasonous. Whoever leaked this, we got to find out who this person is. It's treasonous. By the way, treason can be punishable by death or life imprisonment. I think the statutes that they're looking at are 10 years.
10 years. That was a surprise to me.
But allow me this,
10 years.
I'm going to disagree on what Snowden did, because Snowden did open up, he did expose what the NSA was doing, data mining all Americans, trying to go after some.
He didn't mean to. It was an accident. Well, he wasn't even involved in that. He wasn't involved in that arena.
Wait,
I think he was. Well, no, I'm defending him. I think he was exposed. He was a whistleblower, in my opinion. Now, I think O'Reilly, maybe you guys think
but wait a
he's
second.
treasonous.
You know
I
what?
think he was a whistleblower.
You know why the Russians just extended his stay? Because I think the Russians were
only for this reason. What the NSA was doing is clearly illegal. That's why they stopped doing it.
Yeah, but Snowden had no business doing
Nothing that we've exposed. There's nothing illegal so far. What we've read about what these leaks. None of the Intel Department things we're doing that were correct.
It wouldn't be a 10-year penalty if Greg and Bill O'Reilly were in charge, though.
It'd be treason.
It would be death. Okay, so here's the problem. We've had a series of national security breaches in this country. People like Chelsea Manning, Edward Snowden, Hillary Clinton with improperly caring for her server, right? I don't see distinctions between these people in terms of the fact that they were reckless with our national security. They were reckless with highly sensitive intelligence and materials, and none of that should be excused across the board.
He was exposing something that the NSA was doing illegally to Americans.
But that
is distinct.
But I had to disagree with you. He wasn't trying to do that. He tricked the media into thinking that.
That was the whole point.
The whole point
was data mining every single American.
Almost all of the stuff he leaked was foreign intel.
Yeah.
Almost. And he wasn't working in the area.
He was a puppet, in my opinion, for the Russians.
Yeah.
Just as what's going on with Assange. He's a puppet for the Russians.
We will never agree on this.
So, no, wait a minute. Now you're anti-Snowden?
Yeah. Oh, no, I don't like NSA, violating the laws. But if you're asking me,
you would have known about it if Edward Snowden.
No, but somebody at some point would have come forward. But the fact that he is a puppet for the Russians.
Then you would have that same person treated the same way that we're treating Snowden.
Trump may get a chance to
but this guy won't even come back. This guy won't come back and stand up and say, I did this for a reason.
I just want to point out. I think Snowden is different from Hillary Clinton's email servers and different from these CIA leaks.
And from Mike Pence. Yeah, from Mike Pence. Is there no such thing as privacy anymore? The FBI director answers that question very candidly.
Here we go.
This is Mike Pence.
It's a good song. Many Americans have a lot of concerns about privacy in today's high-tech world. FBI Director Jim Comey didn't do much to settle those nerves yesterday at a cybersecurity conference.
Here's something that I don't mean to freak you out with, but I think is true. Even our memories are not absolutely private in America. Even our communications with our spouses, with our clergy members, with our attorneys are not absolutely private in America. The general principle is one we've always accepted in this country. There is no such thing as absolute privacy in America. There is no place in America outside of judicial reach. That's the bargain.
Well, wow. So, Greg, I want to go to you first on this.
Why are you coming to me?
Because I think you say really interesting things.
Oh, all right.
And I like your cup there.
Oh, thank you.
You are
so
strangely, oddly attractive today.
There you go.
So for those two reasons, we're going to you for two down. Yeah, the only two at the table. Well, maybe you're into other things. But anyway, all right. So based on what the FBI director said, do you agree? Is there such thing as a privacy anymore?
It's scary. It's inevitable. Every one of us will be hacked, and we will all be embarrassed by it. Because I get this argument a lot from people that say, like, so what? If you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't care. No, if you have nothing to hide, you're a boring person. If you don't wake up in the middle of the night and think, oh my God, I hope people don't find out about this, you are an extremely boring person who hasn't lived an exciting life. Everybody here has something. They're going, oh, please, Lord, I don't want that to come out.
And it shouldn't come out.
Yes.
It should not. And that's why I have a big problem with what FBI Director Comey just said. There's no place outside judicial reach. No, that's not the bargain. The Constitution protects you from having privacy as long as you're not breaking the law. That's outside of judicial reach. If you're not breaking the law and you're not associated with someone breaking the law, you are outside the purview. The Fourth Amendment protects that.
But I'm actually saying, what if I do break the law?
You're not.
You still mind my own business. What I do.
I think you also
felony stalking.
But you also just upped the game on your emails because you basically just said you've got some interesting stuff on there. So I'm just saying, Kimberly,
how about when his phone bizarrely by itself calls me at 1:30 in the morning?
I know.
Was that really his phone?
This is
okay, but more importantly, let's get back to the substance. All right. So you were an attorney.
Yes.
Let's get to the legal issue of this. What do you think?
Look, it's interesting because, of course, they need the resources. They want to be able to utilize it. We saw this in a case like San Bernardino where they went to these places. They said, Apple, give us the information. They want to be able to unlock and break encryption, right? And then when Apple finds out they're able to find and get a way in, then it gets patched. So it's a constant struggle and balance between personal, rights and privacy and the government government's obligation for public safety and national security. So where is the fair balance between the two? Where is it okay to say this is a justification to go over here and do an information and an intel grab in the interest of public safety, and when should they be stopped and hit that wall to protect the rest of us?
Well, Juan's been making faces, so
yeah, let me just say, I just
you.
think anybody who thinks they have privacy today is a fool. You have no privacy. I mean, look, I've been threatened with jail because as a reporter I saw something. Now, I didn't want to give the government my notebook, but they said, you will go to jail, son, unless you give us that notebook and tell us what you saw.
They say, son.
Well, they didn't quite use that language.
See something, say something, right?
Did you give it to him?
Well, we made a deal. The Washington Post made a deal, and I went and I testified. But I'm saying you have no privacy, and today, even when you're in your car and driving along, you know, what weirds me out? I'll be driving, like I go to do Fox News Sunday on Sunday mornings in Washington, D.C. I get back in the car. I turn the car on. The car says to me, it's 17 minutes to church. They know where I'm going on Sunday morning before I know where I'm going.
By the way, if you go on YouTube, and based on what you've been looking at, the options that they give you are exactly what you want. AI, baby, artificial intelligence,
You
knows.
can decline those.
All right,
That's the thing of it. You can decline the cookies. You can decline. You cannot use
We can
Google.
continue this
or you
during
can turn it off on
during the break.
No, I want to keep talking.
Let's keep talking. One more thing is coming up next.